Alright, this is going to be a video on how to set up a model in Phoenix 4.0 to make it a little bit easier to fly. These models are set up really powerful. They very rarely bog. They have super crisp response, and I'm going to show you how to make it a little bit easier. So I started with the Blade 300X, and as you can see, it's very quick, very responsive, and can be very difficult to fly if you're a beginner. I'm going to show you how to set up a few settings to make this model a little bit easier, a little bit more controllable, and easier for the beginner. You can use these settings at no matter what skill level you are, but it's just going to help set it up to make it easier for beginners especially. So you want to go to Model, Edit, and you'll see a whole bunch of parameters here to set up for this model. So the first tab I'll just go right from the top to the bottom, go to the Physical tab. The only thing I change in here is the weight. Now these models they fly a little bit light, so I will add a little bit of weight to these. So I went from 0.71 to 1.0, and I'll leave the rest of this, and this will make it fly a little bit heavier in the air and easier to control. I'll move on to the motor and servos, and again, there's only one setting I'm going to change in here, and that is going to be the power setting. And I usually just reduce this a little bit because they are very powerful in Phoenix. All the models are set up pretty powerful, but since this one has low power already, I'm just going to change this to 0.12. I'm just going to reduce it just a little bit to take so much power away from it. And that's about all I'm going to do here. I'm going to go through the rest of these parameters. I'll leave all these pretty much the way they are. I don't mess with any of them. I'll move on to options. You can enable training gear here if you need to, but don't if you're going to use the 300X in real life, because you won't be able to put it on. The other thing, the preset throttle curve, I just leave that checked. I move on to fine tuning, and here I will change a few settings. And these you're going to have to tweak a little bit. You're going to have to play with. The first one I go to is the tail power tuning. And I will turn this up just a little bit. I will move this not very high. I usually try to keep my changes to about 5 to 10. I'm going to move this up about 10. I'll go up to 85 on this. And I will leave it there, and I'll fly it and see how that goes. If it's good, I will leave it. The next, I'm going to go to the engine loading tuning. These things very rarely bog. They don't load up very much, which makes it very easy to fly. But in real life, you know, when they can bog, and you'll have to be able to fight through that. So I'm going to increase this a little bit, give it a little bit more load on the engine to about 110. Now I'm going to move on to the Expo. In the Controlling Expo tab, this is going to be your bread and butter if you're a beginner. This is where you're going to want to do most of your tweaking. It will make whatever you increase here will make the movements around mid-stick feel more docile. It's going to make everything easier to fly. So for the elevator, I would go ahead and move this up to about 30. And these are going to be able to play with a little bit. 30 is a good starting point. If it feels a little bit too sluggish, then you can come in here and move this down. If it's not enough, you can move it up. I do the same with the aileron. I go up to 30. But with the rudder, I try to keep it a little bit less. So I'm just going to go to 15 on here. If the rudder if it's spinning too fast, or you don't have enough control of the rudder, gets away from you, then you can go in and raise that. Same with the aileron and elevator. We'll move down to the main rotor. This is where you can change pitch if you want. The only ones I would change here would be pitch, and they are set at 12 degrees, plus or minus 12 degrees. And I would just leave that at 12 degrees. Some of these, I believe, start at 14, or can be moved to 14. But I would just leave them at 12. For flybar, obviously it doesn't have a flybar, so you wouldn't touch this section at all. But down at the flybarless section, there might be a few settings that you want to change here. So for the agility, the higher the setting, the more control throws you have. Now, this may seem like not a big jump, but they are so agile and so responsive that I will bring this down. I bring this down, usually I bring it down around 5 to 10 as I did here. And the same with the response. I bring the response down as well. And you can read these settings. It will give you a faster control input. So these are set so high that, as you saw when I first did my first test flight, it was very responsive. Some people move the gain around. I leave the gain about where it is. And that's all I'll change in the flybar setting. The rest of these, I usually leave these stock for the rest of the test. But you can change these. You can go to the advanced governor mode, I just leave it on this model. Maybe on 700 models or bigger models when you're going to do a little bit more advanced flying, you might want to change to the enhanced governor mode, but I leave that just the same. Tail motor, I leave everything, the tail rotor section, I leave it the same. I go down to the undercarriage, again, I leave that the same. Now sound, I don't really like the sound of the 300, it sounds like a toy. So I will sometimes change this to the 500 class or higher, but I like the 500 class sound in this. The rest of these are mostly just for cosmetic and just making it sound different and not really for how the helicopter flies. These settings in the advanced settings, you can change these, but I'm gonna fly it and see how it goes. You might want to come in here and turn these down a little bit if it's still too responsive, but I would definitely give it a try at these settings, and I would probably play with the Expo before I'd mess with these. And then for the per model control profile, I would just leave. And as you see, as soon as we changed something, it gave you a copy of the original. And there's still the default there, so if you want to go back to the original settings of the 300, you can. Or you can go to the copy. And then just click Finished. Once you've finished, you're in your copy of your 300, and you will be able to see the difference here. It flies much more docile, much easier to control. It's still responsive and still has that responsive feel that you want, but definitely is easier to control. At this point, I would just fly it around a little bit, kind of get a feel for it, and you can see that it's a little bit sluggish, and that you might need to change the settings a little bit, but it's so much more convenient to fly around, and especially when you're learning. Advanced pilots, obviously this is going to be not set right for you, but for beginners, it's going to be set pretty good here. Now, you can hear a little bit with the 300 class sound. It's kind of a challenge to hear, but you can hear that it's bogging a little bit. When you give it pretty hard collective up and down, you can hear it bog as it does right there, and right here it bogs very heavily. So you might want to go in there and set those up differently. But other than that, I like the way it feels. It flies very well. Go in there and change. If it feels too docile, as I said, go in and change the Expo. Maybe turn the Expo down. Give yourself a little bit more response. The rest I would probably leave. If it keeps bogging like that, maybe go give it back up to its original power since it's a smaller helicopter. But on larger helicopters, it's a good idea to keep that power down. And that's just about it. Go out and test fly it and see how it flies.